Is it possible for a monitor to make you a better gamer? We're going to be talking about 360 hertz displays, how they impact your gameplay, and whether or not it's worth it. Let's talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, I am TheBrandonAF. Today we're going to be talking about the ASUS PG259QN, which is one of ASUS's 360 hertz refresh rate monitors. I've had this display since September of 2020. As of today, late February 2021, I think it's been long enough that I can offer my opinion of real world use on a display I've owned far longer than any of my other monitors, which I have a collection, but this has been my main since I've gotten it. So let's talk about the elephant in the room and just get this over with. That's going to be price. This thing's expensive. $699.99 for a 1080p monitor. Yep, you heard that right. Almost $700. So what are you getting for $700? It's a 24.5-inch panel size, 1920 by 1080 resolution. Panel type is IPS, and I'll add quickly that for those in the IPS camp for color accuracy and viewing angles, I just want to add that one of my favorite monitors, hands down, even at this very moment, as I've been maining the PG259QN for months now, is the Omen X25F, which is a TN panel. And I'll be honest with you, it has just beautiful colors. It is fast, really fast. And for a panel like that and a panel like this 360 hertz ROG Swift, the color accuracy, it's flat out amazing. Out of the box, you're not going to need a calibration. Even with the panel variances from the factory, it is that good out of the box. Having said that, you're not really buying this display for anything other than what it's built for, which is fragging straight up. And those that are prone to be in the TN camp or the IPS camp, I can say between these very, very high-end monitors like the Omen X25F or the PG259QN, it's not going to matter, and I don't see that quite honestly as a benefit. So I just want to put that out there. This has an LED panel backlight, a non-glare display surface, which is very well implemented. I've seen displays where the anti-glare or the non-glare coating kills the image quality, just washes it out. Not an issue here. That's awesome. The brightness is at 400 CDM. And that's both standard and HDR. This shows a contrast measurement of 1000 to 1, though I'm telling you right now that's not accurate. Most reviews are going to have it around 1300 to 1. And also, there is a variable backlight. What's nice about that is that's noticeable. Like you will literally see that if you have it on. Big difference. That will jump you up around 3000 to 1 if you are running a HDR. All the way up to 7,000 to 1. However, again, with the brightness not being very bright, it's pretty normal for these type of for most monitors, quite honestly. You're probably not going to have HDR turned on. However, if you're out there just playing a solo game and you didn't care about the biggest advantage of this monitor being the response time, which they have at ASUS has at 1 millisecond. Then yeah, turn on HDR and live your best life in your single player game. It's going to look amazing. The display color is over billion, it's 10-bit. Bear in mind though, the HDMI display port 1.4 limits that 10-bit to 300 hertz. There is just not enough bandwidth with a 1.4 port to give you a 10-bit at 360 hertz, which is kind of a bummer. The HDMI version 2.0 has one of those. Earphone jack, 2 USB ports, there are 3.0 ports. I don't use those. I'm in that camp where I don't want this monitor to do anything other than power on, get my image. Anything else electrical, I don't want anywhere near this thing. I want the most frames as possible, and I don't even want to question anything that could cause any sort of latency at all whatsoever. We have an native G-Sync module at better, $700, 1920 by 1080p. Hello. So the VR technology is G-Sync, and you have multiple modes. And speaking of, the most accurate out of the box. Color wise, you have multiple presets, is racing mode. But you do have a scenery mode, cinema mode, RTS RPG mode, a G-Sync esports mode, and the sRGB mode. You will probably always use either the G-Sync esports mode or the racing mode, depending on if you like G-Sync, quite honestly. The Game Plus, which is what ASUS calls their additional feature set, would be like your crosshairs, your timer, stopwatch, FPS counter, display alignment. So it's pretty good. Now the stopwatch is kind of neat because if you're playing a game like say Call of Duty Modern Warfare Warzone, or Black Ops Warzone, whichever it is now, that stopwatch is or timer is kind of neat because you know if you're playing sweaty, and let's face it, everybody plays that game sweaty. My goodness, man, down to skill based matchmaking. Stop it. Not to digress. The timer is nice because you know where you should be at in the game on when you need your first loadout, and it's pretty neat that you have a timer or stopwatch that can help you keep track of that if you're not cognizant of that as it's going. So you know if you're before, if you're ahead or behind as you're moving through the match. You just got to remember to turn it on. Now there is a dark boost mode. There's 3 levels, 1, 2, 3. Now it's not as good as a BenQ monitor. I'm just gonna say it. They just kill it with their shadow boosting, if you will. This definitely makes a difference. It's not on that level as a BenQ, but it's really good. So nothing to be ashamed of there. But obviously BenQ is class setting, and they're probably gonna stay that way. There is a ultra low motion blur mode. Now I'm not going to go off on a huge rant on this, but the little brother or little sister, if you will, the VG259QM, which is a 240 hertz IPS display that's overclockable to 280 hertz. I have one of those as well. It is an amazing monitor and it's a phenomenal price. The overdrive or overclock mode, you can push it to 280 hertz. I'm gonna say, aside from the price, probably the single biggest difference between the two would be 280 hertz ASUS. It's enhanced low motion blur. The 360 hertz PG259QN is the ultra low motion blur. On the VG259QM, you can run both the enhanced low motion blur and you can run overdrive. That's kind of a big deal. On the PG259QN, you don't get that option. You run one or the other. So I don't run ultra low motion blur. It is limited to 240 hertz and I want to say 144 hertz. That sucks. I'm just gonna say it. Like it's a bummer that you can't run it, and but anyway, it's got pulse too, so that's nice. So you can adjust it how you see fit. There is a every adjustable color setting you can imagine, as well as the Aura Sync, Aura RGB you can control without having an ASUS motherboard. So if you want to just turn on the display, now I will say it's on the back of the monitor, which is kind of a bummer because I don't know about you, but I don't normally hang out at the back of my monitor. However, if your office or studio or streaming environment or wherever you're fragging out at has your arrangement in a way where when you walk in, yeah, you can see the lights, pretty cool. But what would have been really cool is if they did something like what what HP did with the Omen X25F, where you have a light that projects down that you can control. And I think that's neat because you actually can see it, when you're fragging out, and that's cool to me. It's a neat little touch. I just like it, as opposed to having an RGB on the back of the display where you're never going to see it. But hey, man, it does got the extra RGB, so it's getting more frames. Just enough said. So that's kind of like a high level, overview of what this thing's got going on. It is VESA. So it's 100 millimeter by 100 millimeter. So that's the first thing I do is I pull it off the stand, and in regards to the stand, it's really good. I mean, you got tilt, pivot, raise, lower, everything you'd want from a stand. But again, for me, I just pull mine right off. It's the first thing I do after take it out of the box, and that allows me to switch between displays, if I'm using more than two. So that's your kind of your overview. Now I want to get into the 360 hertz because that's why you're here. I mean, yes, it has nearly perfect, if not perfect, colors out of the box. I'm serious. They're that accurate. That's awesome. It better be though for $700. It says G-Sync module. That's fantastic. It better for $700. It's a 1920 by 1080 display. So, I mean, these are things that I expect, and hey, they it came with it, so that's fantastic. But let's talk about the 360 hertz. Will it make you a better gamer? All right, if you buy this display, are you going to be better with this than you would be without it? I'm going to say yes. Yes, you are. And I think probably the best example of this is one that I don't really feel like anybody can debate. And here's why. NVIDIA uses the perfect example on this. And I'm going to explain to you why you know this is accurate. So here's how they list it. In the world of competitive sports, a 4% difference is a game changer. And the reason they're bringing up the 4% is because from 240 hertz to 360 hertz, there is a 4% difference in what NVIDIA gauges as relative flick shot improvements. That is a 14.5 millisecond difference. That to me, that's a big deal. All right. Yes, it's 4%, so it's 33% to 37%. But I mean, seriously, 14.5 millisecond difference is fantastic. But continuing on, to put this into context, in the 2016 Summer Olympics, 1% determined the difference between silver and gold in both men and women's 100 meter and 200 meter dashes. So why are we comparing that this 4% on a display versus a 1% difference for an athlete? And I'll tell you why. This monitor is geared and built specifically for esports athletes. Okay, it is not going to be for this really isn't a display that you should be spending your hard-earned money on if you're going to plug your PlayStation 5 into it or your Xbox. Honestly, this is going to be something that you are competitive. You may not be an esports professional, but you really want the best of the best, and 360 hertz is going to be it. Now, I'm going to give you an example that I know you can relate to, and it's that time or the many of times that you did something in a game and you thought to yourself, holy crap, did I just do that? You did. And that's the 4% that matters. When you get that extra advantage for those flick shots, and we're talking end to end system latency, and bear in mind that's from the time that you visually see something, so the pixels transitioned, to the time that your brain took in that information for you to respond. um, it's phenomenal. That matters to me. With the motion blur being as good as it is on this display, you're not getting blurriness when you flick around. You can stop on the dime. Everything is in focus. I mean, these things are awesome. Whether or not your eyes, your brain, your muscle memory skill with the mouse can take all that in, that is irrelevant because the numbers don't lie. I mean, these are what they are. This is faster. Um, it is what it is, debate it or not. The real question is, is it worth it for $700? And that's a question only you can answer. You ask me that. For me, that's an easy yes, most definitely. And the reason why is because this is an all-in-one display, so you can edit content, create content. You can frag out without having any worries on anything in terms of was I slow seeing something, or did I have too much motion blur, things like that. You could just that's not even something you even have to think about. I mean, that's pretty straightforward. So major easy decision for somebody that just wants to get whatever the best is, whatever the fastest is, and that is just going to flat out answer the question through my eyes and how I see it. Will you feel? Will you see? Is there a difference? Well, there's only one way to find out. If you like this type of content, please like and subscribe. I can't wait for the next hardware refresh where we see refresh rate climb even higher than 360 hertz. And for those that have been on board for this 360 hertz displays as of now, for the same reasons that I am, you'll be on board right with me for whatever's next. I am the TheBrandonAF. Take it easy.
Din din. I want chicken. I want liver. Meow mix, please deliver.